Analysts are scratching their heads a bit after Friday's underwhelming jobs report fell well below expectations. Let's be honest, it was abysmal. There are the numbers. According to the Labor Department, the jobless rate did drop from 7.7 to 7.6 in March, but it's only because 500,000 people just gave up. Job growth was awful. There it is, the number. Employers adding just 88,000 new opportunities. Let's bring in our political insiders. John LeBoutillier, former Republican congressman for New York. Pat Caddell, Fox News contributor and a former pollster for President Jimmy Carter. And joining us live from Miami this week, Doug Schoen. He, too, a Fox News contributor and a former pollster for Bill Clinton, but he is hanging out with the beautiful people in South Beach. So let me go to you first.
Sure.
For the very first time, Doug, the president, I mean, it took him 4 years, but he is finally in writing committing to entitlement cuts, $430 billion. But quid pro quo, he wants $600 billion in new taxes. So is this going nowhere fast, or what's the deal?
I think it is going nowhere fast. I mean, look, it's a good first step that he's talking about entitlement reform, but bottom line, he's not talking about serious and substantive entitlement reform. It's baby steps. And with making more revenue on top of the tax increase that averted the fiscal cliff in January, a precondition to beginning negotiations, the budget is effectively DOA, and it's been criticized from the left and the right. And bottom line, I don't think that this is a serious offer at all.
And it comes, Pat, on the heels of these awful job numbers. The total jobs created in the first quarter this year, less than the total jobs last year. Is he now officially presiding over the worst recovery since World War II?
Well, yeah, the numbers are pretty clear, and they're getting worse, and they're coming from everywhere. You know, he's posturing on the budgets, kind of like Ryan. You know, I mean, between the two of them, I can't tell which has the worst idea that's going nowhere, but about budgets. But this economy situation, 88,000 jobs, 500,000 people gave up looking for work. I mean, this is the smallest percentage of Americans working or looking for work since 1979. Okay, you got to go, wait a minute. This is on top of all the crisis going on with Obamacare, which is getting worse by the day, and all of these other factors, and he has no plan for employment. He just is out as a salesman. He's leading nothing.
And John, you can't blame it on sequestration cuts, as the White House did on Friday, because when you actually look at the numbers and dig deep, there was a net gain in government jobs. So what is it? The higher taxes? Is it Obamacare? Is it everything?
I think it's a bigger thing. You know, I think it's a crisis of leadership from the top down in the whole country. We see it every day. Crooked politicians getting arrested in New York. We were just talking off the air about the Atlanta school superintendent and the teachers rigging the SATs, church scandals. The leadership class in America has betrayed the people they're supposed to lead. Now, I'm not saying Obama is corrupt. He's not. But he has not seized this job and said, we've got to do something. He does nothing.
To be transparent, he presides over a regime of corruption. All right.
Transparent. He's the opposite. He is the most opaque president.
And he presides over corruption everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying he's personally corrupt. He just has a corrupt system, and he's all for it.
And he's not trying to change anything.
Except when he goes to California, raises $1 million some last week, or whatever.
Well, he gave 5% of his payback, though.
Oh, yeah, and keeps the White House closed for people. I mean, look, this guy is in the business of being a salesman, but he's out raising money, saying we shouldn't have raised money. This is terrible, but please give your money so Nancy Pelosi can be Speaker.
All right, Doug, I want to throw some numbers at you. These, let's go with the Real Clear Politics poll average of President Obama. His approval rating is now 48%, his disapproval 46%. So he's below 50%. He's almost neck and neck here, dead even with himself. And let's take a look at the Razzie poll, the Rasmussen poll, direction of the country, right track, a scant 35%, the wrong track, 57%. And Doug, come on, you've worked for a president. The guy at the top always gets the blame. Does he deserve it here?
Yeah, I think the lack of leadership that Pat and John are talking about is really the problem that the American people are focusing on. They're giving him responsibility. They're holding him accountable, and I think rightly so. And the fear politically, Greg, in the White House is that this is a slide that could become an inexorable slide. Very hard to turn these numbers around.
He got elected 5 months ago. What has changed in these 5 months?
North Korea is going to war with us.
And now we're backing off our own missile tests.
We're backing off in order not to do that. Meanwhile, he also met this week with Iran. Remember, we're going to have these great hearings. We're going to stop Iran. Total disaster. Not even covered in the wake of this. Right. He is not. You know why? He's weak at home, and he sees he can be played overseas. Okay, but the only person that gets this guy. I mean, and of course,
Kim Jong-un.
Well, he does better than the Republicans at getting.
Look, I want to talk to you about the president's huge initiative on gun control. It's going nowhere this coming week. It looks like it's dead in Congress. Why has he been so ineffectual in pushing for that, which he claimed he wanted so much?
I think he's measured where the public is. They don't want the things he's proposing.
So he's
initially,
backing off?
Yeah, after Newtown, we were on this show, the four of us, with you, Greg. And we discussed that Biden and the president were talking about video game violence, Hollywood violence, mental health programs, and gun restrictions. Well, guess what? 3 months later, no mention of mental health, no mention of video games or Hollywood. All it is the same old stuff.
Doug, it doesn't help that Obamacare in many ways seems to be coming apart at the seams. Now we learn he can't get the exchanges going. That's going to be a year or two. Congress has voted to repeal the medical device tax. 79 senators voting against that. You've got premiums going up. Doctor shortage now, 140,000 predicted in the next 10 years. And workers are poised to lose their coverage, the opposite of what he promised. So that's hurting him too, isn't it?
Yeah, and the poll data shows that the American people, as Pat suggested, continue to be against Obamacare. They don't believe it's going to save the money. And with the exchanges disappearing, the prime element of competition is gone. Bottom line, politically, the lack of leadership, the drift in the country, the fact that the president's lost the agenda and control of the agenda.
But it's badly
for.
Go ahead, Doug.
Real quick, Pat, because we got to take a break.
I'm just saying, but there's no counter-narrative here.
There is no counter-narrative. That's the best thing the president has going for him.
The only thing he's got
is the
going
fact
for him.
The Republicans
Has anybody
have
seen
no
a
narrative.
Republican in the last 2 weeks?
Maybe you don't need a counter-narrative. Maybe just watch the self-destruction occur.
You could push it along. Let me tell you, you could push it along a little faster.
All right, let's put them up on the screen. Here are the McClatchy-Maris polls. And the only person who is close to Hillary Clinton is Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey. But if you look at the other potential nominees for Republicans, it's a total smackdown. There's Rubio at 40%. Rand Paul, who is really seems to be exciting a lot in the GOP, he's at 41%. She's still, 11 points above him. And against Jeb Bush, don't even look, former governor, because it's ugly. What's going on, Pat?
Well, a couple of things. One is that she, everyone thinks she's strong. She's free right now. I'm impressed by the fact that Biden's numbers are not much worse. And he's never been strong.
Yeah.
But I mean, against
we'll put
Rubio,
those up in a sec.
But what she's doing is she's got this huge lead. But it tells me everything about the Republicans. And the real question, I think, about Hillary Clinton is, which Hillary Clinton are we getting? She was very aggressive this week. I know that's something Doug wants to talk about. But the real question is she a change agent or just a person surrounded by hacks? James Carville is going to go to her super PAC.
Right.
What does that tell you what this is about?
But she represents, John, doesn't she not, the establishment, what's old in politics, not what's new.
Well, she does if you look at her as her and her husband. But then if you look at her, Hillary, the woman, you got this whole new thing of the woman's movement. It's time to have a woman. We've had our first African-American president. Now we want our first female president. Great. Yeah. Has nothing to do, pro or con, with solving the country's problems, which is what the elections are supposed to be about, not as examples of social change.
Doug, let me go to you because you worked for her husband, Bill Clinton, when he was president. So what's your take on this? She's going to run, right?
I believe she's going to run. I believe the speech on Friday suggested very strongly that she's going to run as a change agent, talking about empowering women, minorities, and the like. And I think that she understands that given the drift we talked about in the first segment on policy, it is best for her to stay as far away from Washington, literally and metaphorically, as possible. And I think you're going to see a new and different Hillary Clinton than the one we saw in 2008. And given the numbers, Greg, I think she has every reason to believe that she can get the nomination and be elected.
I think you may be right, Doug. She can get the nomination right now. But the last 4 years ago, it was also presumptively hers.
Right.
All right.
And
but let's understand one thing. With an economy, with Obamacare, whatever, what you're saying is she's going to be a change agent by running on a sexual identity. I'm a woman. We should help people. That does nothing to solve the problems. The vacuum is with the Republicans having no message. The vacuum in the country against the establishment, and she is surrounded. Her husband.
Look at the numbers with Biden.
Are hacks.
Biden narrowly loses to Chris Christie, and he beats Rubio. He beats Rand Paul. He beats Jeb Bush. What does that say, John? What does that say, John, about the Republican Party?
Well, it's two stories. Number one, Hillary isn't winning so much as the Republicans are losing.
That's what that tells me.
Right.
What's wrong with these guys?
Well, they are Republican. They have the R next to them. And if you're a Republican...
Except Christie.
Yeah, Christie's out of the box. He's a little different than other Republicans, so he's running better. But look, we started out at the beginning of this segment with the unemployment numbers, and Pat correctly, direly predicting a bad economic future.
Right.
That's where we're headed for 2016.
What are you talking, another recession?
Oh, it could be that, but it's stagnation anyway, where we're not growing a healthy economy.
Got to go. I'm getting the hook, guys. Pat Caddell, John LeBoutelier, Doug Schoen down in South Beach. Save a couple of martinis for us. Thanks very much.
I will do that.
You can get more from the Political Insiders every Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, live.foxnews.com. And they will be back here, of course, next Sunday. You can also follow them on Twitter at FN Insiders. We'll be right back.